And people, you watch him match up against other people. It's just an ultimate respect when it comes to Kawhi. Like they know what he's about. They know, that it's going to be a rough night. Like nobody, the guys that talk the most trash don't say shit to Kawhi.
There are just some players in the league that you just do not trash talk. MJ and Kobe Bean, of course, top of that list. Nowadays, it's LeBron and Steph, KD. Nikola Jokic placed himself in that category recently. Luka recently taught D-Book that lesson. And even if he himself is a man of few words, you do not trash talk Kawhi Leonard. Because if you do, you best not miss. Like how Anthony Edwards had to learn just recently. But here's why NBA players still fear trash talking Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi. Of course, we know he's not much of a talker. Sure, his teammates say that he's got all kinds of jokes behind the scenes in the locker room and all, but he's not really someone to trash talk his opponents on the court. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't respond to trash talking ops. He just doesn't do it with his words, like how Caron Butler saw for himself. Now, Caron, he's been known to play these type of games, which I personally do not like. I mean, he's the type of guy to do stuff like this. When he himself reacted like this with Brandon Jennings.
So much more improvement. Brandon Jennings will dribble out the clock.
Here, he and the Clippers were up against a rookie Kawhi Leonard in the 2012 playoffs. The Claw was still a rookie this season, fresh off of getting drafted in one of the most stacked classes ever. He was already a starter though, suiting up alongside guys like Tony Parker and Tim Duncan. Kawhi was learning the ropes from these guys, as well as Manu Ginobili and Coach Pop, so you know he wasn't taking shit from anyone. Caron Butler didn't consider this though, and went on to have a little scuffle with Kawhi. Kawhi responded with a shove of his own, his very first career altercation, and his first technical foul. His and the Spurs' best response though was giving the Lob City Clippers a nice fat sweep. Caron Butler finished the series with a box plus minus of -42. So the antics didn't exactly work out, and the world then realized that this man, Kawhi Leonard, is cold. He will respond in his own way, with his own game. He continued to be that way, all the way to his LA Clippers days. He's actually changed quite a lot ever since being a quiet rookie in 2012. Back then, he was just a defensive ace with a slingshot jumper. Now, he's a two-time NBA champion, a two-times finals MVP, and one of the best and most clutch two-way players the league has ever seen. He's just come off a historic season with the Toronto Raptors, after which he became the most sought-after free agent of 2020. He also just did a new commercial with New Balance after he got to the City of Angels, claiming that it was his city now. Despite his still quiet demeanor, he was and is a legitimate superstar in this league, and he was treated as such. Hell, the Clippers gave up a treasure trove of picks, as well as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, just for Kawhi's demand to get Paul George. Yes, actual MVP candidate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And picks. Not everyone was a fan of this though. The Clippers had their all-time monumental collapse in the playoffs that season, losing to the Denver Nuggets in 7 games, after leading 3-1 and after leading by 16 in the third quarter of Game 5. This was a real disaster class from the Clippers, and they turned from leading contenders to the biggest punchlines of the NBA. Montrezl Harrell, a prominent member of that team, had some things to say after he was eventually dealt to the Los Angeles Lakers. He, alongside Pat Bev and Lou Williams, was upset on the quote-unquote preferential treatment that PG and Kawhi got that season as the team's superstars. Apparently, Kawhi was allowed to take games off and load manage as he pleased, as well as live in his hometown, San Diego, which of course led him to being late to team fights. Hell, Kawhi was also allowed to essentially dictate the team's rotations, having control over when he could be pulled from games. Trez had a lot to say about Kawhi, and I bet he felt he was justified in his grievances. I mean, he was part of that underdog 2018 Clippers team with SGA, Lou Will, Pat Bev, and Gallinari that gave GSW a scare. He's no Kawhi Leonard though, and he learned why players do not trash talk Kawhi Leonard soon enough. The two LA teams met in the preseason after Trez got to the Lakers, and at one point in the game, Harrell thought it'd be best to channel his inner Carmelo Anthony and try to shoot a fadeaway midi from a triple threat position.
The veteran group out there for the Lakers, Montrezl.
Of course, he's not Carmelo Anthony, so the ball proceeds to clang off the rim. Kawhi was there to pull the rebound down, and he made sure to let Harrell know that he missed. He was on demon time. But it didn't end there. The Clippers had a bunch of injuries, including Kawhi Leonard sustaining one that kept him out of the playoffs. But they were able to reach the conference finals for the first time in franchise history, and even gave the Phoenix Suns a real scare. That same Phoenix Suns, meanwhile, bounced Montrezl Harrell's champions LA Lakers team out in the first round, giving LeBron his first elimination in the first round of the playoffs. Pretty brutal ending to the season, but it's been downright depressing for Montrezl Harrell ever since. He eventually became a journeyman, playing for, to be honest, joke teams like the Wizards and the Hornets, eventually ending up in Philadelphia. He and the Sixers were also bounced out of the playoffs in embarrassing fashion last year against the Celtics. I'm probably the only guy talking about Montrezl Harrell right now, because he's just grown more and more irrelevant ever since that comment against Kawhi and them. He's now an injury-riddled mess without a team. Absolutely brutal ending to a feud. Kawhi really is on demon time. But how did Kawhi get that deadly? He didn't really have that superstar top 15 player in history type aura. That is, at least, before he got to Toronto. This was when Kawhi had to face the bulk of his trash talkers and naysayers. He was a rental. This was just a little detour before he went to the Lakers. The Raptors is a soft team. This city is still named LeBronto. Then they got the second seed. People still didn't believe in them. Stephen A. Smith called the Sixers and Joel Embiid unstoppable.
So my argument would be, it would be tougher to stop Embiid if he were healthy.
They got this man praying for their downfall.
Praying that the Philadelphia 76ers win this game.
Hell, even Mark Wahlberg was talking his talk on Kawhi and the Raptors.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously Kawhi is fantastic, but no, I think the Raptors, you know, they always gas.
Unfortunately, though, the ball was just on the Raptors' side that Game 7. Kawhi Leonard, like how he answered every naysayer before, let his game do the talking. 41 points, 8 rebounds, 3 steals, and the only Game 7 buzzer-beating game winner in NBA history.
It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Even then, the Raptors had to face the MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo and the first-seeded Milwaukee Bucks. It was looking like the end of the road for the Raptors, man. It's been a great ride. No one expected them to reach the conference finals, but they were there, and everyone had Giannis and the Bucks over the Raptors. Here's what Nick Wright had to say in his preview of the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals.
To me, I think Milwaukee is the heavy favorite, and I would be more surprised with the Raptors winning the series than the Bucks winning it in 4 or 5 games.
Here's what the brilliant Colin Cowherd said about it after Kawhi and the Raptors lost in Game 1.
Kawhi Leonard was a shot fighter by the fourth quarter, never hit a basket, only scored 2 points for the player I'm being told is the best player in the world.
Also this.
I honestly think we've seen the last of the Raptors after this series because I think Milwaukee's just better.
Now, to be completely fair, these were fairly reasonable takes at the time. The Raptors weren't looking too good. They'd just come off a hell of a series against the 76ers. The Bucks just dismantled the Celtics team that had Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown in a gentleman's sweep. But it's just wrong to count out Kawhi Leonard that early in a series. You know how the Claw responded? He responded with this.
He has Giannis behind him, gets to Leonard.
And this.
4:10 to go. Kawhi. Deep three.
And of course, this.
Hoping for a miracle. Also here to cheer on. Leonard makes it official. Now the Warriors.
And he ended the season as he began it, by having the last laugh and giving Toronto their very first championship in franchise history. The rental player who was gassed out by the Eastern Conference Finals gave us one of the greatest single-player playoff runs that we've ever seen. certainly up there with the likes of 2018 LeBron James, and Stephen A. Smith made sure to make amends.
Kawhi Leonard is make all of us, including myself, look like absolute positive idiots. That's really what this comes down to. Kawhi Leonard is simply on another level and everybody else is just spectating.
But that's what tends to happen when you voice out against the best of the best. Most of the time, they deliver against all the naysayers. And it's what makes them great. It's what made Kawhi great. Ever since that old technical with Caron Butler to now being called an old man by Anthony Edwards, Ant came out of that with a win for the Timberwolves. But that says more about the impending greatness of one Anthony Edwards. Because Kawhi, well, he definitely has nothing left to prove now. And the Clippers' potential championship run will just add to his greatness.